Good morning, Heather Hill here with Blayzin Star Ranch, and it is January 24th, 2016. So this is the continuation of the video on mushroom growing here at home, and we're going to start and take a look at exactly what we're doing. I'm going to do an abbreviated version of this because there's a few steps. It's actually really simple. But I want to just cover everything the way that we're doing it so that we have a good catalog of what exactly we're doing. So today we're going to do some portobello mushrooms, and we're also going to do some white button mushrooms. We're going to do the portobellos first, then we'll do the white button mushrooms after this video, so that because we're going to do two different processes for each one, and we're going to keep track. So first thing is we've got our journal out, which we always keep a good journal of what we're doing, and in the journal we've listed what we are going to be using. We have the large plastic bin. We're going to use some sharp knives, isopropyl alcohol, which I was not going to sterilize everything, but at this point I have watched probably about 50 separate little YouTube movies, and every one of them does have some things in common, and not one of them is exactly the same either, which is crazy, but they do have some common themes. One is that it's a good idea to sterilize your implements, and so apparently there is some threat of mold getting in and destroying all of your mycelia. So we're going to go ahead, and that was the suggestion made by one of my friends, and I appreciate what he has to say. He's pretty smart, so I think I'll just follow along with what he said. And so then we also have writing implements. We got a black Sharpie. I've also got my pen that I'm writing with here. I always use, when I write, I use Deluxe Uniballs. They're waterproof when they write, and I think it's good to have records that are going to be kept for a long period of time. So we have a large soup bin, colander, spray bottle, distilled water. We're actually using spring water, as long as the water doesn't have chlorine in it, because the chlorine will kill the mushroom spores. And plus, chlorine's just evil and bad anyways in your water. So we're going to use spring water. And our spring water is coming from Samantha Springs, which is very local here. They are a brewer. They have one of our favorite brewers up the street. But this is like probably, oh gosh, 2 miles away. I could bicycle to that place to get the water, which is good. We're using local materials. So all right, and let's see what else. And then I think is really important is having the cooking thermometer, because everything that I've read says that we should sterilize the medium in water, and that it needs to be at about 180 degrees. So we boiled this water. Now we're letting it cool down, and we're going to check it to make sure how hot it is still. See if we can get it in the water. Yeah. If it's cooled down below that, we're going to go ahead and heat it up again. But I think it'll be fine. We boiled this off. We're going to pour it. It actually is. It's actually a little lower than I want. All right. We'll go ahead, heat it up again. That's fine. It'll heat up pretty fast. We don't want it boiling though, because apparently when it boils, there are other bacteria that will colonize in it. So we've got our portobellos, and so we're just going to use one today. Just going to use this big one, and I think that it is large enough that it's going to cover the entire box. We're going to chop it up finely. It's been sitting upside down like this overnight, and I peeled the veil off because I wanted to expose the spores to it. I don't think that would matter. This one is probably also ready to use, but you know what? I think I'm going to eat this one instead because it looks delicious, and I love portobellos. And I think that this one will have enough in it.
As you can see, the gills are exposed. They're nice and open. So these guys are ready to drop all their spores. They haven't because it's,
Been sitting this direction. So I don't know, maybe spores have been spewing out. We've got the isopropyl alcohol. We have the sharp knives, the pens that we were going to be using. This knife I'm going to use, I'm going to sterilize it, and I'm going to use that to cut up the mushrooms. This knife in the back here, this knife, I used to drill the holes into the bins. So that's the first thing I did, was we went and got the bins. And here is one of the bin. I'm using a pretty large sized bin. And I have marked them so that I can identify them. This is bin number 1. I do this on all my boxes. I marked it on every side and then on the top so that I know what bin I'm looking at from any direction. And then if you can see, I used the knife, this knife, because you know what? I don't have any power tools right now. I would have used a power tool. Maybe, maybe not, because this did it just perfectly. So I cut the holes in the bin at fairly even intervals. That was another thing, is that people seemed to be of the opinion that having air holes, because of the carbon dioxide that the mushrooms would make, is going to help, so that we needed to let it breathe. Okay, so we have the large pot that's boiling. We have a rag, which we're going to use to sterilize everything. Got a large colander. Probably should sterilize that too. We will. We've got a bowl because, we're going to pull stuff off, and we're going to eat everything that we don't use. And then we have a bottle full of the spring water that, actually I think I put distilled water in this one, and we're going to use that to spritz them because they have to be kept moist. The medium that we're going to use this is composted hay. It's been out in the yard for a while. That came with, it's the hay that's been here forever, because it came with the horse manure that we picked up and had delivered. Well, we had delivered actually. And then the other side is a wood chip. So that's a hardwood chip. And both of these, the hay came from a local nursery, Fossil Hills, I think it was, Fossil Creek. And then I just bought the wood chips at Home Depot. And I'm glad we're going to actually sterilize both of these. Obviously, this one is growing, so I think it's a good idea to kill anything. This one, when I opened it up, I found that it already had mycelia on it. And I really want to keep these to a single kind of mushroom, so I know what we're eating. Then this here is a organic compost of horse manure and humus. So this is going to be the soil. We're going to mix in the soil with the wood chips once that's sterilized. We are not sterilizing the soil. I just don't think that's a good idea to sterilize it. It is supposed to have things in it, that bacteria and things like that help things grow. So I'm hoping that will work. So we're going to put together everything, and we're going to take the hot water. Once it gets to the right temperature, we're going to pour it both into these bins. Then we're going to let that sit for a while until it cools down so we can handle it. And then we're going to get as much moisture out of it as we can, and then we're going to build the bins. So this is step number 1 of our mushroom bins.